The Full Press Washington podcast. I'm your host, George Carmi. Let's get it on. Happy Monday, everybody, or actually Misery Monday with a big Washington loss yesterday against to the hands of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm here today with three Washington super fans, three diehard Washington followers, and we'll start off with my man Keith Gray, host of the Bleeding Burgundy podcast and also Hog Farmer. What's up, Keith? How you doing today, bud?
Good, man. Thank you for having me on the show.
Of course, man. Looking forward to hearing from you. I'm here with my man Nate Coleman. How you doing, Nate?
Hey, I'm recovering right now. It's been a pretty brutal Monday, but I'm still here. I'm still kicking and ready to talk it out with you guys.
Sounds good. And also my full press coverage contributor, Tony J. Wheat. How you doing, Tony?
Very good, thanks, George. Yeah, a bit like Nate, still getting over last night and looking forward to this therapy session.
Yeah, 100%. So, yeah, yesterday was rough. So for one, I don't like Sunday night football games. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I feel like you kind of wait all day long for a game. And, we were going into the game as like the underdog, and it was be an uphill battle for us to win. But I didn't think anything would actually turn out the way it did last night. So it was crazy. I think it was probably one of my least favorite games of all time. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but it was just embarrassing on a whole national scale. So let's kind of throw the question out, and we'll start off with Keith. Keith, let me know how you feel about this. What is your biggest takeaway from the game? Like, what walking away? How do you feel? What happened? Just kind of break it all down. What are your emotions right now?
I feel absolutely miserable as a fan. This just goes to prove the roller coaster that the NFL can do to you. We weren't looking good in the, first part of the season. Then you start getting yourself, to the middle of the season. We get that 4-game win streak. Now we're puffing out our chest. We're feeling good about ourselves. And then, you go and you play the Eagles. You have the COVID situation that totally hurt us. And then coming into this game, which, not only did you have COVID, but you still have those injuries. I mean, we're just decimated, man. We're just decimated, and it left me with feeling, I'm not going to lie, man, I'm pretty pissed. I'm pretty pissed about the whole situation. I mean, last night, they were running the score up on us. They did not care. And I'm not mad at them for doing it. They basically saw that we were wounded, and they took full advantage of that. And it just sucks. It sucks as a fan to watch, when you kind of go backwards into the offseason and you take a look at some of the stuff that we've done in the draft and, the offseason moves that we made. And, on paper, you really just keep telling yourself, we're going somewhere. We're gonna move forward. Things are going to trend upwards. And then you have last night's game that totally brings you right back to reality. And now it's got me question, are we trending upwards or are we going backwards? And I don't really have an answer to that because, you've got to factor in all the different variables. You got to factor in COVID. You got to factor in the injuries. But at the end of the day, all these other teams are going through the same thing.
That's true.
So Keith, no excuses, except for we just got to take this loss and deal with it.
It's interesting. So I'm going to throw it over to Tony because I know, Tony, you've been a diehard fan for a long time, and Joe Theismann is one of your favorite players of all time. So you've seen Washington for a very, very long time. You've kind of seen the ups and downs. So Keith brought up some really good points. Like, do you attest COVID to any of this in regard to the loss? Do you think it's more systemic? Do you think, what's your big takeaway from the game?
Well, the big takeaway, there was almost a sense of inevitability about it. I mean, the defense held out in the first series, but thereafter, we struggled to move the ball offensively at all. They moved the ball at will. I think Keith summed it up really well. It's a combination of a number of factors. I mean, the injury report is pretty terrible. Clearly, COVID's knocked us sideways in the last sort of couple of weeks. But it's a long season, and I think we are, it's a bit of a cliche, but we are where we are. We've had the highs, we've had the lows. But I think actually where we are now is almost reflective of the kind of team we're at. We're not a playoff team. We're also probably not one of the worst 4 or 5 teams in the league either. we're probably in that middle bracket of teams where we're not quite good enough to push on to the next level yet for a number of reasons, which we can go into as we go on. Franchise quarterback probably being the primary one.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just felt like last night kind of summed up. If you take into account all the peaks and troughs of the season, where we, the first 6-7 weeks we thought we were terrible, then for 4 weeks all of a sudden we were making a playoff run, and maybe we could hurt people. All the pundits and the talking heads were saying, "Oh, you don't want to be playing Washington. Geez, they run the ball, they dominate the time of possession," all those kinds of things. And then the last 2 or 3 weeks again, it's fallen off a cliff for justifiable reasons. But even if you strip all that back, I still think that we are actually where we are. We're a mediocre, probably not the worst, but certainly a long way from the best team.
Gotcha. And then Nate, what are your thoughts? So I think Keith brought up a really good point. So obviously we have yesterday's game, but we also have like state of the franchise as well. Are we showing progress? Like, let's talk about yesterday's game, but then also touch on, are we showing any progress from year 1 to year 2 under Rivera? And do you think our team is making progress? Do you think we were better than last year? What are your takeaways, Nate?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not one to get too high on one game. There's a lot of parity and volatility from game to game in the NFL. But I will say, like, the stakes have never been higher. You're playing for your playoff life. You're playing against a division rival. You're playing against them after they whooped your ass at home. I mean, it's just the stakes couldn't be higher, and to play on prime time and just embarrass yourself like that, it's pretty brutal. And I mean, they're dealing with stuff off the field, obviously, and then you got COVID that affects it on the field. But it's kind of hard to see the silver lining here. I mean, if you just people talk about like games aren't won on paper, but if you just objectively go through the lineups and you compare our team to the Cowboys, like where do we have the advantage? Like if you just think about Dallas, like they have the advantage at quarterback, offensive line, running back, wide receiver, tight end, and you flip it on the defensive side. That's supposed to be our strength. I think they're better at every position too, by a lot. So it's kind of like, so where are we better? And maybe we look good on paper because we only look at our own roster every offseason. But I mean, there's definitely a lot of work to do. I mean, it's exciting to look at the offseason, but it's kind of sad that we have the same like conversations every single year where we're just talking about what could be. So it would be nice to see something actually manifest on the field,
That's the Washington way, right? We're always looking for the offseason, always looking for the quarterback class every single year, right? It's kind of unfortunate right there. So I'm going to throw Keith the question. I'm going to throw Keith the question. Don't get mad at me, Keith. It's going to be kind of a hot question over here. So the Cowboys, 2 games in a row, right? They basically kind of looked like they outclassed us. And unfortunately, it kind of looks like almost like a just gigantic business model too. Like they have the star, the better stadium. They came up with the idea for the heated benches. I wouldn't have to go crazy with the benches and all that. But like, what is your like in this rivalry? Do you still feel that it's there? Do you feel like Dallas is completely outclassing us? And how do you bridge that gap, Keith? What are you thinking?
Yeah, no, the rivalry's been dead for quite so many years. I mean, I think that ultimately it starts when man, that's a tough question.
Yeah,
the rivalry's always going to be there with the fans. But again, optics always tends to go one way or the other. And when you see these guys after a game exchanging jerseys, smiling, hugging each other, it tends to change the way we view things today as opposed to back in the 70s and 80s where guys legit hated each other. They legit hated each other and they played like that onto the field. Today's game is definitely a lot different because they got the money, they're smiling, it doesn't matter to them. So the rivalry will always be there, but I don't think it's ever going to be as strong as it was back in the days when it was literally knock your teeth out football.
No, it's interesting. Like I know, all of us are about the same age. We grew up in that Michael Jordan era where basically competitiveness, you want to tear someone's head off, right? And now we're starting to see people, high five and making super teams and things like that. Like I something I noticed, just something small. I'm not trying to call anybody out, but I was.
Can I add to that though?
Yeah, go off.
To what you just said to the Michael Jordan comparison.
Yeah, go ahead.
If we had social media back in the MJ era,
yeah,
they would hate him
Oh
as
yeah, be a
much as
villain.
we see that they hate LeBron right now.
Yeah, I think probably more so because LeBron tries to play both sides, tries to be diplomatic, but Jordan didn't care. I don't think so at all.
Absolutely. He was the
Yeah,
face of the NBA and everyone loved that. And everyone, wanted to put on a pair of his sneakers and jump just as high as him.
yeah,
But we never really got to see the negative of what people really felt about Jordan. And basically, if you weren't a Bulls fan,
yeah,
they all hated him.
yeah.
And, so again, it's just optics, things that we see differently today that we never saw, back in the day.
Yeah, I
So
was
I
just gonna
just,
go ahead. Sorry, finish off. Go ahead.
no, I was just going to say that I thought that was, a pretty decent comparison when you talk about MJ, because, that's a lot of things that people don't say. I mean, they trash LeBron on a daily basis.
Yeah, they
And
crush him.
absolutely they crush him, and they would have done the same for MJ. So, today's age is definitely different. That's all I can say.
No, I agree. Well, all I was going to say, just a little small anecdote, was I was at the Cowboys game, and luckily I got to sit in section 109. I was near, Jeff and Chris and all those guys, and I just happened to notice that's where the players run through the tunnel while they're running out back to their locker room. I just happened to notice that Jamin Davis happened to exchange jerseys with a Cowboys player after that ass whooping, and I'm like, you know what? It's interesting. Like, as a fan, we have this deep hatred for the other team, right? But these guys are like, there might be friends, but at the same time, I'm trying to be more like open-minded as well. It's like, hey, you know what? They might be college roommates. It might be went to a 7-on-7 camp a couple months ago. I have no idea, but I didn't notice that. I was like, that's just something like, I don't know if I could have done that. Just something that was interesting to me.
I say take that back to the locker room.
Yeah. Or afterwards. Bad optics.
Yeah, because again, the optics of it. I mean, I don't want to see love anymore. I don't want to see people giving love. I want to see people knocking people's fucking teeth out. I want to see people be angry. I want an interview where a player's like, you know what? Fuck the Cowboys.
Yeah.
How about that?
I love that. Like, just off the rails. It's go nuts.
Yes,
I love it. That'd be
absolutely.
awesome.
Like, I want that intensity. I'm just over the let's dap them up, and it just whatever. I know today is like I said, today is definitely different than the way it was back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I get it. Times are changing, but it lessens, I guess, in all retrospect, it lessens the rivalry that we did truly once have.
Gotcha. I agree. So speaking of optics and knocking people's teeth out, I know you guys can probably see where I'm going with this, right? Tony, how do you feel about the whole John Allen, Deron Payne dispute on the bench? Do you feel anything that's a concern to you? Do you think it's just brother talk? It's anger? Is something that can kind of brush off the next day? How do you feel about that?
I think it's probably, to me at least, it's probably the least of our concerns.
Okay.
It doesn't bother me greatly. It's not a great look, obviously. I just think that you've got two guys who obviously played in the same college, they played in the same NFL team. The game's going south. We don't know what was said. Clearly, Payne stuck his finger in his face, which is ridiculous. But yeah, and obviously John Allen's come out and said we're brothers fight, and that's the standard line. He's going to say nothing else, I'm sure. But what annoys me is where it starts off this sort of little cottage industry then, where I'm reading stuff today. Has Rivera lost the team and all this kind of stuff? Is this reflective of the way he's pulling the team together? Now, it may be, it may not. I personally don't think it is. There is a lot of heat at the moment. Stuff goes on. So, look, I think we've got far greater problems than worrying about a little bit of a sideline dust-up, however bad it looked. Yeah,
I feel you. So, Nate, how do you so what's your thought on the state of the team? Do you think Washington was yesterday's game a true reflection of where Washington stands in the NFC East? Do you think it was an aberration of a game? Do you think Ron Rivera still has control of the team? What are your thoughts on everything, Nate?
Yeah, I think like that rivalry aspect. Rivalry is fueled by winning. So, both teams are winning. It makes things a lot more interesting. But yeah, talking about like the future, I mean, I don't think yesterday's game was like an indication of where the team is at. It's just one game. It's brutal. I mean, optics wise, it's brutal. But I think this team is right on track for about the course. I mean, it's kind of what we expected. I didn't think they were really that good last year. I didn't think they were really that good this year. But I thought their roster was heading in the right direction. And maybe now I'm not so sure. I mean, you're not seeing production from your rookie linebacker. You're missing out on a lot of these picks that I thought were going to hit. But I mean, it all can change in the offseason if they make the right moves. I mean, I'm not too down, but that loss has to be like maybe the worst loss I've I've witnessed and maybe my whole life. I don't know. It's been pretty brutal, but we'll have to see. We'll have to see what happens next. I mean, I really am just kind of focused on the off season now, which sounds kind of depressing to say, but I mean, I at least like being competitive.
No,
It's fun to be in the race at least.
No, Nate. No, Nate. I spent some time with you at a game, sir. And the thing you told me was never give up.
Hey, that's good, Nate. Okay, cool.
God bless America. Never give up.
I remember hearing about that.
Nate? Yeah.
Hey,
so do we lose the last? Do we lose the last 2 games now?
Yeah,
what do we want? What do we want out of the last 2 games now? That's the question. Do we want to play? Do we want to play for position or what?
No, yeah, I was gonna say, like, I think people like get off on this tangent about like tanking versus not tanking.
Yeah.
And I don't think there is tanking in the NFL in the way that fans think there is. Like, no team willingly goes out there and says to the players, "You're gonna lose today. You need to not try." That doesn't happen. If by tanking, like my definition of tanking, which I'm okay with, is if I trade away a bunch of assets and I play all of my young players, but I want them to still win and play well, I'm okay with that. If you have no chance of making the playoffs, that's different. I have no problem with that. But I think people like get obsessed with this like tanking versus not tanking when it's not really a thing in the way you think. And then on top of that, like your draft position does matter. Like I would rather pick at pick 5 than pick 15. You know, like call me crazy, but I mean, no, I mean they're still technically in the playoff hunt, so they're still going to be competing, but I don't think they're good. I don't think every single other team in the playoffs, except maybe the 49ers, have a franchise quarterback right now.
It's
so
crazy.
Like that's where we're going. And they have Trey Lance too. So I mean, they already set up
waiting in the wings. Yeah, they're ready for it. Yeah, it's crazy. So, like, I think, we obviously want Washington to finish off strong, but clearly, we aren't ready for that playoff push. We're not ready for that next level competition over there. So what do you guys think moving forward? Like, what do you think about the state of the team? Like, what is the biggest flaw? Do you think our offense has the biggest deficiency? Do you think our defense has the biggest deficiency in talent? I guess, Keith, we'll start off with you. How do you feel about the 2 main people, Taylor Heineke and Antonio Gibson? Do you think they are good enough to build around? Should we improve them at all? What are you thinking about that?
No.
Okay.
Nope. I think you continue going into the draft. I'm only a BPA guy.
Okay. I agree, actually.
Certainly we can go BPA because we got so many positions of need that need to begin. So I don't even think BPA, necessarily is a bad choice here. Just grab a guy, put him, and hopefully, he can start out making plays from the get-go. Again, when you look at everything as a whole, I agree with everything that all of you said. I don't think we were, a great team last year. I don't think that we obviously are a good team this year. It's patience with the Ron Rivera process. I mean, we gave Jay Gruden 5 years, right? Was it 5? I mean,
I think 5 or maybe even 6. Actually, it was a long time. I can look it up right now. Go ahead. Yeah,
and that's why I say just you continue to go with it. I'm not saying that things will change, but we got to give it a chance and continue to build, continue to fill positions of need and make good decisions. With who we're bringing onto the team that it wants to help contribute. Again, continue to build depth. We see how important depth has been for us all year because all we've been saying is next man up. So, excuse me. So there's a lot of factors. And I think that's right. Well, to go back to your original question, absolutely not with Heineke. I still think that you can build around Gibson. The only problem with Gibson with me is the fumbles. It just seems to nonstop happen. I don't know if you can fix that problem. But I still think that he's a guy that's worth, willing to still be in your, backfield. We've seen what we got out of McKissick. So if McKissick stays healthy, I think we're okay. But obviously, it's quarterback or nothing. It's quarterback or bust at this point. The fans need hope. They need hope, and Heineke isn't bringing that. And at least
did for a little bit, but I think it went away. I think the past 2 games kind of separated. It was like there's some upward trajectory, and all of a sudden, boom, he kind of came down to earth. So we kind of see where he's at now. He can't elevate players.
There was hope during this season, but long term,
yeah,
no, there couldn't have been much of hope from anyone as far as long term. And I think right now that's where we've got to turn around. You take away all the other stuff that is making this organization look bad. If you kept it just strictly football, we've got to hit on the quarterback, but we also have to remain patient because this quarterback isn't going to, get thrown in the line of fire and start winning Super Bowls either. So this is just going to have to be a patient process, but we need something that's going to keep us going because right now this heartbeat is just about flat.
Yeah, Keith, there's a lot to unpack with what Keith just said. So first of all, Jay Gruden, just to kind of circle back on that, 6 years as the Washington football coach or Washington Redskins coach, 35, 49, and 1 was his record altogether. So, definitely not necessarily nothing impressive at all. Ron Rivera, 2 years into his regime, he's 13 and 18 as Washington's coach. So clearly there's a lot going on here, right? So I'll throw it to Nate first, right? So clearly quarterback is high on top of the wish list. But we also talked about it as well, right? Clearly yesterday wasn't simply about the quarterback. Obviously a quarterback can mask a lot of deficiencies, but what is your healthy balance? Do you want to go all in and trade up for a top 5 pick? Do you want to, have a veteran quarterback come your way? Because there is that delicate balance of, having that quarterback, but at the same time building around our team because our team is missing a lot of pieces as well. So Nate, what do you think? What's your dream scenario?
Yeah, so I think you should be open to all options. You shouldn't just focus in on one thing and just stick with that. So obviously you can pursue those veterans. To me, there's a very low probability that any of them come here because there's only a few that could even be available. It's probably like Derek Carr, and then I don't think Aaron Rodgers gets traded. I think Russ gets traded, but I don't think either of them are coming here. And even if they are, you're going to have to give up a ton of assets and you're going to have to extend them. And probably give up a good player too. But I'm open to that. If it's the right deal, it's all about value and how much it's going to cost really to me. But any of those three, I'm okay with. Other than that, I don't care about any of the other veteran quarterbacks out there because they're backups or, replacement level starters. But then if you're looking at the draft, you might not even have to trade up in the draft at this point. You could draft a rookie quarterback and not have to do anything. But the expectation should be that they're going to suck next year because most rookies do suck the first year, and that's okay. The big thing is you have to surround them with talent, and if you trade away all your assets, you can't really do that. So it's a catch-22, but right now they're in position where they're going to have a good shot at Pickett or Howell or Willis or hopefully Corral. Any of those guys, I think would be a great fit, but I think people just get so hyped up about the rookie quarterback and they kind of forget you have to have all the pieces around them. And a lot of times they struggle. But the other point I keep making is even if this quarterback struggles, the rookie just busts and they're awful, you can still get back value for them later down the road. Rosen got a second. Josh Rosen was terrible and he still got a second when he was traded. Sam Darnold got a second when he was traded. Carson Wentz got a lot of picks when he was traded. And those are guys who are all kind of busted out of their first destination. So it's not all doom and gloom, but there's not another position like that where you can trade them even if they suck and still get something back for them.
True.
Can I say something? I know Tony hasn't talked yet, so I don't want to. Okay. Speaking on that too, I think that this organization they're in a real tough position here because, talking about the quarterback options and knowing, what the realities could be for next season if you did have a rookie quarterback, leading the way. It's in a lose-lose situation for everyone, for the team, for the fans. Even though a guy will get drafted and he could potentially be the future, you're going to have to go through those couple years, maybe 1 year, maybe 2 years of growing pains. I don't know if this fan base can handle that.
Yeah, I was just going to say that, Keith. I was just going to say that, but go ahead, continue.
I was just going to say that's the scary thing. It's because it's losing season after losing season after losing season, and I think that what we all want, and it can be different variables of things that make sense, whether it be a vet quarterback, if Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, even though the chances of that is slim to none. But you get my point. Is that the only way you're going to feel good is if you did bring in a vet quarterback, because then now you're not going to be expecting to lose. You're actually going to expect to win because you know of who the vet that you may be bringing in to do this. But I don't know. It's like having the excitement of we can't even decide what rookie quarterback we even like. I mean, there's 3,
Mhm.
4 guys out there, and the whole fan base is split on every single one of them. Kenny
Mhm.
Pickett sucks because he has small hands. Like the reasonings are just unrealistic to me. But I just don't know how much more this fan base can take. And that's the
Yeah.
scary thing, because as much as we want to have pride for this team, they make
No,
it
I'm with
very
you.
difficult. And I just feel like that they're in a no-win situation no matter what they do. And that's
I
tough for us fans. And so I need people to tell me how we get over the next 3 to 4 years of possibly this continuing until we can have that roster where it needs to be.
Yeah, I'm with you, Keith. You and I have definitely had some like pretty, one-on-one deep conversations about the fan base and where things are at. And I do think people should be prepared for that, right? If we're going to, get a rookie quarterback, there's going to be some bumps in the road. Not every quarterback gets the ground running, even this year, right? We have see Trevor Lawrence. I think he has 9 touchdown passes on the year. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass since October 31st. He's the number 1 pick in the draft, and he's supposed to be the generational quarterback. So you have to kind of have that surrounding pieces around him. And it's tough. Like you and I aren't going, us four, I don't think are going anywhere in regard to our fandom, but they're the younger generation who's like, like I'm a teacher. So when kids wear a Washington football jersey or a hoodie into school, it's like, like people like laugh at them and joke. Like you're not this, people want to wear the Patriots or the Saints or the Chiefs. So, they want to wear something like that where they can feel proud of it and confident with it, but it's hard to do that. So it's tough. Let's bring it back though, Tony, because I know you were left out with the quarterback conversation. What is your thought? Like, what's your dream scenario? Rookie, vet? What are you feeling?
Well, I like Nate. I'm not interested in any of the sort of below top shelf free agents. Again, I don't think Rodgers is leaving Green Bay. So, but yeah, Watson, Carr, those kind of guys. But again, I don't think they'll come. That would be the only prospect that we would have in terms of what Keith said. Give the fans hope. If the deal is let's give the fans something to really get behind, then maybe they should go all out and try and get one of those guys. Maybe mortgage the farm to give that fan base that sort of shot in the veins, and that would give the team potentially an immediate bump on the field because there are pieces. We do have pieces now. Obviously, we've been decimated by injuries and everything else. One of the things I was going to say was we need another dynamic offensive playmaker, but we thought we had that with Samuel, but Samuel hasn't played a meaningful down all season.
Yeah.
We don't know. Samuel could come back completely healthy. First mini camp in May, Samuel could be the man. But you combine him with Gibson, with McLaurin, Logan Thomas healthy. You've got a reasonable core. These guys are not all they're not all pro superstars, but they're a reasonable core. A vet quarterback could bring out more, I suspect, than Heineke has. A rookie quarterback is going to take time. The names that you've all mentioned, we don't know. We don't know. They could hit the ground running, but the chances are unlikely. I guess, and this is just throwing it in there just as a wild card. Has anybody considered the possibility of re-signing Fitzpatrick? Because he played a quarter and a half, so he played literally about 18, 19, 20 minutes of football. We go back to minicamp, training camp. Fitz was going to be the guy who was going to get the ball down the field. He was going to bring the playmakers into play. Now, I don't know how bad this injury is. It's obviously bad enough because it's put him out for the season and he's not getting any younger. But I'm just throwing it out there. I'm not saying it's the answer by any means.
I don't think he wants to.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
You don't think
so?
I don't know.
For what reason,
you might.
No, listen. When he was done when he was done with the Dolphins, he was good with walking away. It was Washington who reached out to him, and he was rolling with it because why not? What does he have to lose? 1 year, right? It was a 1 year contract, right?
Yeah,
it was
one
year.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I wasn't talking off the rails here.
No, 1 year, 10 million.
Yeah, right. 1 year, 10 million, whatever. I mean, I personally think that would be your best option. Is still go draft your rookie QB, but bring Fitzpatrick in, let that rookie sit a year. I'm not a huge fan of throwing rookies in their first year. I don't think they produce very well. I know a lot of people have opposite feelings on that, and I get both sides. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to that, to be honest. I think if you have the opportunity to bring Fitz back, you do so, but you need to make sure that you draft that rookie too, and that rookie is at least learning something from him. But give him, another 1 year if he wants to, and I honestly think that would probably put us in the best shape, and it would keep the fans from, jumping a ledge.
I think, I think. Go ahead, Tony. What are you going to say?
I was going to say, yeah. I mean, he may not want to come back. He might be right. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that he does. How many times this year have we seen cut-ups on Twitter of plays where we've said, with a quarterback with a decent arm, that's a touchdown? There was probably 2 last night. The first pick to Diggs was underthrown. Even the ball that Diami Brown caught, if you'd have led him further on. So, and that's what Fitzpatrick potentially could have done. So, we're still dealing with ifs, buts, and maybes, but I'd certainly explore that possibility, because I think that's probably a short-term shot in the arm that we could have and bring along a rookie. Now, obviously, we'd be carrying 3 quarterbacks then, because presumably
Heineke in the mix too.
Heineke's on the books for just under $3 million for next season, so he's not exactly costing money.
There you go.
So yeah, I'd be tempted to at least consider that possibility.
Interesting.
But you've got to keep building a roster, because at the end of the day, as we said there, the franchise quarterback is essential. We're not going to win anything or go anywhere without one long term, but you can't ignore everything else. I mean, Deshaun Watson's last season in Houston, he's a superstar, and they went 4-12. So you can't just make that assumption that you have a superstar and that's it.
That's a good point. Very good.
And I'm not a cat guy, but it almost feels like it makes the most sense, because it's still, by bringing in, Fitzpatrick for another year, you're drafting your rookie quarterback. You're not losing a ton of assets for all of these decisions. You're not spending a ton of money for these decisions. And it still opens up more opportunity for you to fill more positions in need, and again, we're not having to worry about a large quarterback contract, from a rookie anytime soon. So I just think that it does put the organization in a better place. Just not sure what the results would be. But I think if we're drafting our quarterback, we have to believe that that's going to eventually be the guy. Mm-hmm. And I think that all of this being said, for the fans, I guess what I'm trying to say is it gives us the most hope out of what's been going on.
Unless you have a rock star quarterback, I think a rookie quarterback's going to be the most marketable and most interesting thing to kind of portray and put out for our fans. I agree with you, which is my next point, which is our last question of the day. We'll kind of wrap up over here, right? So 56-14 national stage, we're out of the playoffs, or we're, mathematically pretty hard to get into the playoffs coming up. So where do you guys stand in regard to changes, right? Do you want to have massive sweeping wholesale changes? Do you want to kind of stay on par for the course? And I'm leaving that question open-ended on purpose, because I want you guys to answer it from your perspective, right? You can if you guys want to talk about the fan perspective, how do you bring fans back in marketing perspective? If you want to talk about coaching and get rid of the offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, you guys can go that route. I'm going to start off with Nate. Where do you feel in regard to tides of change? Should be more wholesale? Should you kind of maintain par for the course, sweeping? In what regard? What would you do, Nate?
Yeah, so I have critiques on all the coaches, but okay. I mean, nothing substantial, right? I think Rivera is a great leader of men, but I don't think just because you're a good person, it doesn't make you a good head coach necessarily. I think he's just kind of a delegator, which is fine. I don't need my head coach to be involved in play calling or any of that sort of thing. But I also don't really want him involved in personnel decisions, if that makes sense. I understand he has the final say, but I don't think he has that much time to really evaluate a lot of these college prospects the way I'd want to see it get done. Anyway, you're not changing that though. He's staying. Jack Del Rio, I feel like he's really slow to make adjustments, especially in game. Sometimes it'll take multiple weeks. And I don't know if that's Rivera overruling him a lot of times, but it seems like he's always slow to react to things. He'll stay in base personnel and the other team will be using 11 and they'll just be throwing and going down the field over and over on us. And it'll take him a game to adjust to it. And it seems like that happens a lot. And you definitely can say he's not maximizing the talent, but then again, it's hard to maximize your talent on defense, which is, pass rush when you're constantly playing from behind. Offense, I like Scott Turner. I think he's fine. I think he understands pass protection. And I think pass protection is the most important thing for offense. It gets you the best play out of your quarterback and it just makes everything easier. So I think any rookie that comes here is probably going to have decent pass protection. I think that's the first step. So obviously I'd like to see them make a bunch of upgrades, but I mean, I'm good with Turner. I'm good with Rivera. And I think Jack Del Rio is a fine coach, but I think people overrate coaching a lot too. I think like quarterback drives everything. How good your roster is drives everything. I think we nitpick coaching a lot when we don't really understand. It's hard to really like always like quantify what they do, to be honest with you.
That's a good point. Very good. All right, Keith, what about you? Same question. How do you, so I guess Nate's more about like maintaining the course, getting the quarterback to kind of revamp the team. Keith, you can go coaches, you can go fan base, you can go to marketing. How do you feel? Big changes for Washington. What's your perspective on it? Maintain the course.
Yeah. I say you maintain the course. I mean, the reality is that we're not firing coaches. So, you can hope in one hand and shit in the other, and which one's going to be heavier type deal. And,
good metaphor. I like it.
I mean, I guess, but, that's not necessarily happening. Again, I think you just continue to build your roster. You know where your holes are. I agree with Nate. I don't really know if I like the idea of Ron Rivera making certain personnel decisions as far as who's coming to the team, but, maybe I just don't understand that process, and I'm just going to keep it moving. I think that you got to go. You need your quarterback. You have no other option at this point. You need your quarterback. You need to give this fan base hope, or that there can be hope of growth with this team, because we've been rebuilding for 30 years, and that's been absolutely sad to me. So that's where the hope, needs to go. We need to get rid of all the negative stuff that constantly just glooms over this team. We need our new stadium. We need to be given things in order for us to feel good with the shit that is happening on this field, which is losing. We've got to feel good somewhere else at this point. But again, since I talk a lot, to answer your question, maintain the course. Keep doing what you're doing. Make smart decisions on who you're bringing in to add to this team, and let's hopefully continue to build something special.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. I think the hardest job in DC, besides being the president, is probably being the season ticket sales holder for Washington football team. They try to sell tickets out to everybody, or Jason Wright trying to put out fires left and right. I feel like he's just been given like hot shit in his hands. He has to basically like make chicken salad out of chicken shit all the time. It's kind of hard. It's a lot of stuff thrown his way.
They were calling for him to be fired, and he don't even make personnel decisions.
Dude, that's the thing. I'm like, I love our fans. Our fans are like two things, right? I am a diehard fan. Like I've been through it all, so I know exactly how everyone feels. But I do always kind of feel on the other end. It's like, guys, you got to be more patient too. I know it's like, oh, we've been patient for 30 years, but things that happened 2, 3, 5, 10 years ago does not reflect what's happening right now. Be a little bit patient. Let the process kind of unfold a little bit. Like I do think it's gonna be hard to replace a coach like Ron Rivera, because I think it's gonna be hard. It's hard to attract coaches to Washington because it's a tough organization to turn around. And I think with Jason Wright trying to do his thing too, it is difficult for him to kind of navigate as well.
Build stability. I think that's what I've wanted to say this whole time. Just build stability.
Then we can always, I think that me and Nate talked about it offline before. It's like Ron Rivera is going to be our placeholder, kind of set things up for us. And then the next coach will take us to that next level. I think that's kind of the dream scenario. But Tony, bringing it home, last question of the day. How do you feel? How do we make changes in DC? Do you want more wholesale changes, more something, maintain the course? What are you thinking?
Yeah, I tend to agree with the guys so far. I mean, I think we're 2 years in. All the worst teams are the ones that are constantly changing coaches. We can't tear everything down 2 years in. I know Rivera talked about in 3 to 5 years. I think Nate might have actually said that from a military point of view, 5 years is too long. But 3 years. 3 years to me would be a reasonable time. If we're not seeing any progress by the end of next season. Now, I'm not saying we need to win the Super Bowl next season, but if we're not contending to be a decent playoff team, then perhaps we need to ask some questions. But for now, look, we've tried every approach. I've been a fan for 40 years. We've tried every single approach in that time. We've tried throwing big money at free agents like Hainsworth and Deion Sanders and Bruce Smith and all these guys. We've tried that. We've tried to build, solidly approach. So I think we just need that stability. I think for me, we need to look at free agency again. Again, it's not always the answer. We've got $62 million in cap space. I would make sure that the Lions I would make sure that the two lines are both solid to start with. I think Scherf will go. I'd make sure we re-sign Charles Leno if we can. And then I would look to bring in at least one or two starter level, or at least, solid depth level guys on the line. I think the D line. Look, 6 months ago we were going to have the greatest defense in NFL history. If you read some people, there's a lot of variability on defenses year to year. I mean, I wouldn't count myself, anywhere near you guys in terms of stats, but defensive variability, I think, is quite sort of year to year. So although the defense is massively underperformed this year, I don't think there's any reason to be too upset and to say that potentially next season the defense could actually be a lot better. So I'm reasonably optimistic about the defense. I think we need another playmaker on offense. I could almost talk myself into being optimistic here at this point, but
that's the Washington way, unfortunately.
Yeah. Look, I just think we need to. We've got a decent amount of money that we can spend on the free agency level. Let's try and, if we can draft well, bring in another 2 or 3 guys. Yeah, I don't see the point in tearing the house down just to start again, because we'll be in the same situation in another year or 2 years' time. We've been on this merry-go-round for decades now, so let's be content with a plan and let's stick to it for at least another year. Ask me again in 12 months if we're 6-11. Might be a different answer, but for now, look, let's not be doing anything crazy.
I'm with you, Tony. The NFL, I keep saying to everyone I talk to, it's like a big novel, right? There's 17 chapters of the book. We're feeling pretty crappy right now after this 56-14, drubbing by the Cowboys. If we beat the Eagles next week, we'll feel a little bit better, hopefully. And, I do think we should have stability. I think instability and kind of constant overturn and blowing out people, coaches and offensive coordinators, I do think it sets us back. And that's what we've been doing for years and years at Washington. So I think we should maintain the course. So, guys, I'm going to bring it on home. So thank you for all of that. So I'm going to kind of pass the mic around and introduce yourselves one last time and talk about where your socials are so people can find you. Start off with Tony. So Tony, bring it on home for us. Tell people where they can find you.
Yeah, cheers, George. At Tony J. Wheat on Twitter. Contributed to Full Press Coverage. Hopefully going to do an end of season wrap. Getting that prepared. So loving it here in Ireland, and hoping for better next year.
All right, thank you.
Happy New Year, guys.
Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. Yeah, what do you got?
Yeah, guys, you can catch me at Jayhawk Chalk on Twitter. I'll be diving into the off season soon, so excited to get going. But yeah, thanks for having me on, and hope you guys have a good New Year's.
All right, Keith, what about you, bud? Bring it on home.
Yeah, you can find me at KGskins26 on Twitter, but I prefer you not look for me at all. I just don't want you to. But that's where I'm at. If you want to debate with me,
I just want to give you a hug, Keith.
I know. I'm so sad.
Keith's down today. I thought you were going to come in and start cussing people out, but caught you at the wrong time. Go ahead.
Listen. With your show, I try to bring it down a notch and not be a little overwhelming. I try to keep it somewhat professional, but I am mad, man. I'm mad. I'm pissed off.
Yeah, it's tough, man.
I'm pissed, but I'm pissed about a lot of things, man. I'm pissed about the sideline incident.
Yeah.
I just expect more from who I feel are leaders of the team.
Mm-hmm.
I understand things get out of control at times, but it's just optics for us, man. It makes us look bad. We look like clowns half the time.
We do. It's tough.
And a lot of us, that stadium is 50%, 70% them, 30% us, and I'm just throwing that number out. But yet we continue to keep going back, and we continue to hope for different results. And it hasn't happened. It's very frustrating. So for me, I'm pissed, man. I don't have time for jokes today just because last night was embarrassing. I know people are like,
that was embarrassing.
It's only one game and it is what it is. And I don't see it that way, man. I'm 42 years old. I'm going to die in 10 years. Right. So
lay off the drugs, dude. What are you doing over there? Go ahead.
No, just the middle life expectancy these days are short, man. And I make jokes about that, but I mean the reality is every game matters to me, and I don't want to see my team get beat out because I care about the rivalry.
Yeah, man.
Right.
Me too.
I hate Dallas. So I don't want to see them rout us 56-14. That's hurtful, especially, I don't know. It is what it is. But anyway,
I talked. Yeah, that was arguably the worst loss of the season for any NFL team, right? I was trying to think about what team got blown out that bad. I can't think of anything's worse than that. So it's tough, it's tough in the Washington world. Hopefully we can bounce back next week. We'll see how it goes. But thank you guys for everything. Thank you for tuning in. We'll be around. I'm George Carm. You can find me at fullpresscoverage.com. Take care, guys. Have a good day. Bye.